In this lesson, we're going to learn about multiplying fractions. So the first example here, 2/3 times 4/3. Multiplying fractions is one of the easiest things to do, where all you have to do is multiply the two top numbers, or numerators. So in this case, we get 2 times 4, and multiply the two denominators. So 3 times 3, which makes the following. 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 3 is 9. This is our final answer, 8/9. In this next example, there's no difference. It's basically the same thing. So we can just multiply the two numerators, 2 times 3, and 2 times 3 makes 6. Now the two denominators multiplied together make 4 times 7, which is 28. Okay, but we're not quite done yet, because 6/28 is a reducible fraction. And what I mean by reducible is there is some number that you can divide 6 by, and you can divide 28 by the same number. So I'm thinking of the number 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 28 divided by 2 is 14. So the fraction 6/28 and 3/14 are the same fraction. However, we prefer the answer 3/14 because it is reduced to its lowest terms. All right, let's give the next one a try here. So 3 times 7 on the top will make 21. And 8 times 3 is 24. Now again, let's see if this thing can be reduced. So is there a number that we can divide 21 by, and we can divide 24 by the same number? Well, yes, the answer would be 3. So 21 divided by 3 is 7, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. So I'd like to take a moment to think about what just happened here. If you notice, our final answer looks a bit familiar. There's an 8, just like this 8. There's a 7, just like this 7. But there are no 3's in our final answer. And that's because whenever you notice that there's a 3 on the top of a fraction and a 3 on the bottom of a fraction, and the two fractions are multiplied, it turns out that if the same number appears once in the top and once in the bottom, they will cancel out. And so the only things left were the 7 and the 8. So our answer was 7/8. Let's try this next one. I see a lot of people get this one confused. Now the first issue, I suppose the only issue, is what to do when one of the two numbers is not a fraction. So we can change, I'll write a note here. Change any number into a fraction. Now let's think about this for a minute. So if ever I gave you the fraction 8/2, what I'm really saying is 8 divided by 2. So the top number divided by the bottom number. And so 8 divided by 2 is 4. So our fraction here is 4. But 4 on its own is not a fraction, whereas 8/2 is a fraction. So the question then would be, well, how do we take any number, such as 5, and turn it into a fraction? Well, we have to think of some number up here and some number down here, that when we divide the top number by the bottom number, we get 5. And the easiest way to go about this is to copy the same number and just put it all over 1, because no matter the number, if you divide it by 1, it will not change the answer. So 5 over 1 is the same as 5 divided by 1, which is just 5. So this works. Now, with that in mind, let's return to question D. 10 times 1 over 2. Well, I can change the 10 into a fraction with the same method. All I have to do is say 10 divided by 1. That's the same thing as 10. So these two are the same. And of course, I need to continue this calculation, so times 1/2. And now let's continue. So 10 times 1 is 10, divided by 1 times 2 is 2. And well, what did we say a fraction is? Well, it's just the top number divided by the bottom number. So 10 divided by 2. It turns out this works pretty well. 10 divided by 2 makes 5. So 5 is our final answer. Let's try one that's a bit longer. So we're not necessarily limited to only 2 fractions in a multiplication. You could have as many multiplications in a row as you want. So in this case, I introduced 3. So let's give this a try. So 2 times 4 times 7. I'm just going to multiply all 3 of these together. 2 times 4 times 7. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 7 is 56. And now let's try the denominator, or the bottom numbers, and let's multiply all of them together as well. So 7 times 2 is 14. 14 times 4 is, well, look at that, 56 again. So if we wanted to reduce this fraction, we can think of some number that 56 can be divided by, and the same number that, well, 56 can be divided by. So the top and bottom number need to be divided by the same number. And well, if they are the same number, you can divide them both by 56 in this case. So we're down to 1 over 1. Another way of looking at this is 56 over 56 is the same as 56 divided by 56, which equals 1. And up here, the same thing. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. So no matter how you look at this, the answer is going to be 1. My question is there a simpler way to do this question? Well, yes, there is. 2 over 7 times 4 over 2 times 7 over 4. We should have noticed that at the very start, if you see a 2 on the top and a 2 on the bottom somewhere, they cancel each other out. And likewise, there's a 4 up here and a 4 down here, so they cancel each other out as well. And last but not least, the 2 7s, 1 is up here, 1 is down there, they will cancel. So there's seemingly nothing left. And I see a lot of people, when everything cancels out perfectly, they are tempted to say 0, but 0 is not the correct answer, as we noticed up here. So be very careful. If everything on the top or the bottom of a fraction, or both, if everything cancels out, there's still that remaining factor of 1 that we have to include. So if everything cancels out perfectly, you'll get 1. You will not get 0. That's all for this lesson. I'll see you in the next one.